Welcome friends, welcome back to the Homestead for this July tour. We're now in the middle of July and I just wanted to update you with a quick tour around and show you a couple of bits that we've not shown before actually. And we'll look at the gardens as well because all the lilies are out now. I've got the name right this time. There's a good example here. So let's take a tour around and see what we've got going on. So I'll start with the gardens this time perhaps, and lots of things are out in flower now, lots of lilies, other plants and lots of things which are about to come into flower. But the lilies always look particularly spectacular. My mother-in-law does a great job at looking after the gardens. Certainly not something I could do, not with everything else, and as you know from previous videos, I somewhat lack knowledge of flowers, but I'm getting there, as I'll show you in the market garden later. So yeah, and we've got more things going on over here, more flowers, lilies, clematis, and other bits and pieces. Sweet peas. Here's our kind of berry area with gooseberries and blackberries, which are fruiting for the first year, which is great. And some other bits and pieces. And red currants. Get those off soon before the birds do. I've just turned over our compost area, the second compost area, and that's in here now literally 2 days ago. And not getting quite as hot as I'd like, but getting there. Our cobra French beans, just starting to climb up the strings, which is great. And there's the space on this side which I didn't have enough plants for, so I'm going to let the wild hops vine up there, see if we can get some flowers and hops off them this year. So one area I wanted to show you, which I've not shown you before, only in passing, is our basement, where we store a lot of stuff. I'm in the middle of renovating down here, so we've got new steps. And as you know, we did the roof last year. These are the sort of the old stones which the basement was built with, but they're just too dangerous now. Let's just turn the light on and have a look at the basement. So this is where we store our winter crops, potatoes and carrots and other bits and pieces, and our pickles and jams, preserves and stuff like that, and juices as well. We make juices and we store that's birch tree juice as well. And I think the important thing to take from this is that, I guess, if the shelves are empty in the shops, these shelves will always be full. There'll always be food here. We can always rely on that. Obviously there's more than a year's worth here, but there's all sorts of things: pickled peppers, tomatoes, fruits, some pickled vegetables, there's some juice, high energy stuff, sustenance. Over here, sorry, there's more. These are all tree syrups and juices, all very healthy. Obviously these potatoes are all at the end of the season now, so they're not looking that great. Some beets as well. But in a few weeks' time, they'll all be full up with fresh stuff. So that's our basement, or the caverns. It reminds me of the Beatles cavern. But it's a very British thing really, isn't it? But yeah. So that's the basement. Turn the lights on. So now you've seen the basement. Let's go and look at the greenhouses. See what's going on over there. Finally got some sunflowers to grow. Don't know if they'll come up in time. They're only dwarf ones. I'll have to sort those out actually. So there's a greenhouse. I'll try and cut in a shot from the last one to see how much, so you can see how much the tomatoes are grown. Started to cut off the mammoth seeding chard. Lots of fruit now, which is encouraging. There's some, I think they're Black Russians tomatoes, peppers and chilies, alpine strawberries, some plum tomatoes by the look of it. Lots of peppers there. Peppers have done really well this year actually compared to previous years. Last minute winter cabbage to go out. And this is Oma's greenhouse. Same story really. Here, you know, if you remember back to those, I showed you those sort of sad-looking tomato plants earlier in the year. They've done really well now. Lots of dill's been harvested out of here. Round to the no dig area. Our garlic's still in just for a couple of weeks. We've had all the scapes off it, and you see the ends are really starting to go brown now. So we'll pull this. In fact, I did have a sneak look. We had some guests over, and I was just showing them the other night. I think I pulled one of the way. So that's a nice bulb. This bulb's really nice. This is that leaf mould compost from the old animal barn. Antique compost, as I call it. It's about 50 years old. Lots of volunteer potatoes in here, which is interesting. And we've started preparing for new beds as well. So we'll bring these right over now, and do some other stuff next year. There's our other no dig potatoes. If you're watching this for the first time, not seen our other videos, then all the material for these, not these 2 beds, but these other 4 beds, is all cut from around. So really into that sort of permaculture methodology, really, of utilising what's around and making sure that what comes up goes back down, and generating soil. So we're all about making soil, which in turn makes us food. And our I want to call them flower beans, runner beans, are starting to climb as well. Really got going. Our peas were a bit of a disaster on here this year. No idea what's happened. Write us on a postcard, please. I'd love to know. I mean, I've heard of dwarf peas, but that's ridiculous. It's about 1 foot high. Right. We've got over here, all our poppies have been gone, seed, lots of marigolds, and the strawberry season's pretty much over now. We've started to weed out this bed, and we hope to get a mulch down on this, bark chippings, wood chips, all produced from our own material, which we've got ready really. This is the Growing for Life bed. We've had our spinach and we let that go to seed, so we can reuse the seed. Lettuce is really needs picking. Our volunteer potatoes, somewhat thriving. Look, there's a grasshopper. And some pumpkins, and our Sweet corn. Knee high by the 4th of July. Well, it's now the 14th, 15th of July, and it had gone way past knee high, so that's great. Let's go around to the other area that I wanted to show you that I've not previously, I don't think, anyway. Which is our orchard. We have a few apple trees around. All these around here actually, apples, which give different types of. That's a particularly nice one. That one. Types of apples. I have no idea of the variety. So this is our orchard area, which I've not shown before really. We've done a lot of work in here this year, and we'll need to do more next year in making the apple trees manageable, taking the crowns out. We've planted a couple of trees as well, one there and one over there. As you see, they still need a bit of work. But we think frost might have got to the fruit this year, because there's some trees don't even have any fruit on. But it could have been a shock as well from the pruning, I don't know. That's fine. This is a long-term investment. But there's plenty of gooseberries, black currants. Yummy. More black currant, lots of black currants. Again, we've cut those back a bit. Some red currants. And we've actually got some cherries on a cherry tree. Lovely. Protected from the birds at the moment. We had a really bad storm, well, just wind really, the other day, which has broken a few things off, a few bushes, and it ripped all this off as well. More black currants. This is an okay harvest. I've seen it much denser than this, but again, we've cut a lot of the older growth out to let the new stuff come through. Good. And the orchard will continue to grow as we put more trees in. Let's see if we can get a cherry on here. Birds like those. Let's go to the market garden. See what's going on there. Sorry if there's a lot of wind noise. So there's our potatoes. This is my well, there's some herbs there. That's dill and parsley. The flowers are all coming up. Nice. Well, one of those is. I'm sure the rest will come up. These are asters, chrysanths, I think. Asters are planted here, and they're looking very nice. This was a type of marigold, I think, if I've not got these wrong way around. A volunteer potato plant in flower as well. Some hemp. We had a problem with hemp seed this year, and as an experiment I planted the rest in the ground, and there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's from about 60, 70 seeds. 7. Because first of all, it's the first time planting hemp, and I wasn't sure whether I did something wrong, so I just put the rest down. And it does seem that there was a seed problem. And I planted marigolds down the edge of the rows here, just to give it a bit of colour, hopefully. But I think this time of year, this is when the garden's probably looking the best, because it's the most green. We've picked the first few carrots. The onions are starting to fall over, so they'll be out soon. They're bulbing nicely. Brassicas are doing okay, all things considered. Little attack from worms, but I used some BT, and that seems to have helped with that. We've been eating our tender stem broccoli and our butternut squash plants are really starting to take off now. I don't know if I said, but the plan was always for 6 beds across, but the way it was cut out is, well, cut out's not really the right word, but we ended up with room for 7, but we didn't use it. And I've just set up this bed so that the squashes can climb over, and then I've seeded this with clover, red clover, as a bit of a cover crop. Gherkins, and you can see how the sun tracking, that end catches most of the sun. This sun's got sun all day, and then these, as the sun comes over from this side over to here, we get shade at this end, and that's something we need to take into account next year with our planning. Although it seems okay, but perhaps we need to think better about shade tolerant plants. More brassicas here, Savoy cabbage, more onions, more carrots, beets, and a run of raw beans. Chard, parsnips doing well. It's nice to see the shallots starting to bulb up nicely. Leeks, kohlrabi, lots of French beans, and turnips and Swedes. And then we've planted here, it looks dry, but it's not, it's just the very surface. These are winter or later carrots, and more French beans of different varieties. And this is where we started. I'm making more beds here, and I've planted a load of winter veg. So we've got more beets, chicory, some more broccoli, spinach, and we've got, that one is everlasting spinach, bush spinach if you want to call it, perpetual spinach. Some late spring onions just coming up, and some later peas, some more chard and stuff like that. So yeah, I've just got these walkways. I've just been processing some of the wood that's around for firewood, and then that will, we're not sure what to do with that. That's the birch tree thing. It would probably get burnt, to be honest, but we'll use the ash back on the field, and then that will be chipped to produce the wood chips. Yeah. There's pea. Look at the rest of these brassicas. Pea shoots. These are absolutely yummy. If you've just tastes just like pea. The spring cabbages are starting to gather up now. These are colettes. So yeah, that's the homestead tour. Thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I've got the video of how this area was made and why, coming out soon, and other bits and pieces. So yeah, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.